You've seen one on the interstate. A semi-truck with a cab so long it looks wrong, like someone welded a studio apartment to the front of a trailer. Chrome everywhere, a row of windows down the side, maybe a satellite dish on the roof. And your first thought was probably the same as everyone else's. Some trucker spent way too much money showing off. A rolling vanity project. $500,000 of ego doing 70 in the right lane. But here's the question almost nobody asks when they pass one of these things. What is actually inside it? Not the chrome you can see, the part you cannot. Because the answer is not luxury, at least not the way you think. The real reason these exist is hiding inside a law you have never read. A single change made in 1982 that quietly rebuilt every truck you have ever driven past, and it connects directly to the food in your kitchen right now. There are 4 layers to this, and most people never get past the first one. They see the marble shower and stop thinking. But the marble shower is not the story. The story is why a marble shower on a highway is even legal, and what it secretly costs the person who paid for it. So let's start with what is actually behind those windows, because even that part surprises people. Walk inside a top-tier custom sleeper from a builder like RI Legacy Sleepers in Shipshewana, Indiana, and the word truck stops making sense. You step into a residential kitchen, real Korean countertops, a full-size refrigerator freezer, a cooktop, a farmhouse sink. Past that, a full bathroom with a stand-up shower and custom tile, a queen or king bed in the back, flat-screen TVs, a fireplace and some builds, satellite dish, internet, ceiling fans. One documented build even had a hidden interior garage, sized to hold a Harley-Davidson. This is not a sleeper cab. It is a one-room apartment that happens to be doing highway speed, and the price tag matches. A bare-bones custom sleeper starts around $85,000. A loaded one clears $200,000 for the box alone. Add a premium chassis, and the whole rig climbs toward $400,000, even $500,000. So far, this looks exactly like the vanity project you assumed it was. But here's what that explanation misses completely. The driver who buys this isn't decorating. They're solving a problem you've never had to think about. A long-haul trucker doesn't go home at night. They live in that cab for weeks at a stretch, sometimes a month, eating in it, sleeping in it, running their entire business out of it. Federal rules force them off the road for long, mandatory rest breaks every single day. And a truck stop parking lot is where those hours get spent. So that residential kitchen isn't indulgence. It's the only kitchen they have. That shower isn't a flex. It's the difference between a truck stop line at midnight and a hot shower in their own home. The apartment framing isn't a metaphor. It is legally and practically this person's primary residence on wheels, and they're trying to make living in a parking lot survivable, which makes the spending suddenly look rational instead of ridiculous. But it also raises a much stranger question, one that has nothing to do with comfort, because a box this large, bolted to the front of an already enormous trailer, should not be legal to drive down a public highway at all. And yet there it is, in the right lane, completely within the law. So how is that possible? The answer is a loophole so large you could drive a 40-year-old industry through it, and people have. When you picture truck length limits, you assume there is a cap on the whole thing, bumper to bumper. There is not. In 1982, Congress passed the Surface Transportation Assistance Act, and buried in it is a rule that quietly governs every big rig in America. Federal law tells states they cannot limit the length of the trailer below a set minimum, and it says nothing on the National Highway Network about capping the overall length of the tractor-trailer combination. Read that again, because it is the entire secret. The law regulates the trailer. It does not regulate how long the truck pulling it can be. So a builder can take a sleeper module and stretch it to 100 inches, 140, one documented build ran 168 inches of cab, And none of it counts against any federal length limit, because the limit only ever measured the trailer behind it. That Marble and Harley apartment is not sneaking past the rules. It is parked dead center, inside a gap, the rules left wide open. This is the part that should genuinely surprise you. The single most extravagant thing on the American highway exists not because someone broke a law, but because a 1982 law forgot to write one. And this connects to something you have seen your whole life without registering it. Look at old footage, a movie from the 70s, a photo of a freeway from decades ago, and the trucks look fundamentally different up front. Flat-faced, stubby, the cab's sitting right over the engine. Then look at the road today. Long hoods, huge sleepers, a totally different silhouette. That was not a styling trend. That was this exact law rewriting what a truck could physically be. But to understand why that change was so violent, you have to see what trucks were forced to look like before 1982, and the answer is honestly a little grim. Before that law, the rule was the opposite of today. States capped the entire length of the truck and trailer together, bumper to bumper. And that single fact dictated the shape of every American big rig for decades. Think about the math a trucking company faced. If the total length is fixed, then every inch the cab takes up is an inch stolen from the trailer, which means less cargo, which means less money per trip. So manufacturers did the only logical thing. They shoved the cab forward, directly on top of the engine, and chopped the nose off entirely. That's the flat-faced truck you remember. It's called a cab over engine, and it dominated American highways for one reason only. It was short, so the trailer could be long. But living in one was brutal. A cab over sleeper could be as small as 63 inches, barely enough floor for a grown adult to lie down. There was no apartment. There was a metal coffin behind the seats, and maintenance was its own nightmare because the cab sat on top of the engine. Mechanics had to hydraulically tilt the entire cab forward just to reach it, dumping anything left loose inside. Drivers tolerated it because the law gave them no choice. Then, 1982 happened. The instant the rule changed to cap only the trailer, the cab-over's entire reason for existing evaporated overnight. Suddenly, you could put a long, comfortable nose back on the truck and a massive sleeper behind the seats without losing a single foot of cargo space. The industry switched almost completely within a couple of decades. The flat-faced truck didn't die because it was a bad design. It died because the law that created it disappeared. So the $500,000 apartment you saw on the interstate is a direct descendant of that one regulatory sentence. No 1982 rule change, no giant sleeper, full stop. Therefore, the obvious question that becomes impossible to ignore. If the law now lets a trucker build a rolling mansion, and living on the road clearly justifies the comfort, then why doesn't every long-haul driver own one? Why are these things rare instead of everywhere? Because there's a hidden cost built into the laws of physics, and it's the part nobody selling you the marble shower ever mentions. There is one number that rules everything a truck does, and it has nothing to do with length. 80,000. That's the maximum a standard 5-axle rig can legally weigh, fully loaded, on a U.S. highway. Truck, trailer, fuel, driver, and cargo, all of it, capped at 80,000. And that ceiling turns your luxurious sleeper into a quiet financial trap, because every single pound of that apartment counts against the limit. A plain day cab might weigh 15 to 17,000 pounds. A big custom sleeper module alone can add over 3,000 pounds before you even add the marble, the appliances, the generator, the motorcycle. And here's the brutal part. Whatever the truck weighs, you subtract from 80,000, and what's left is the only weight you're allowed to earn money on. A light day cab might haul 50,000 pounds of freight. A heavy luxury sleeper pulling a refrigerated trailer might be capped at 42,000 pounds. That's 8,000 pounds of cargo you legally cannot carry on every load, for the life of the truck. The mansion doesn't just cost $500,000 up front, it shrinks your paycheck on every single trip. And now we're about to see how all of this lands in your actual life, because this exact trade-off, comfort versus payload, is silently deciding how the things in your house move. The freight that stocked your fridge, the box on your porch, the produce in your grocery aisle, all of it rode behind a driver who had to choose: live comfortably and haul less, or live in a box and haul more. The drivers running lean day cabs, hauling heavy steel and gravel, made one choice. The owner-operator in the rolling apartment made the other. So here's where you actually land. You passed that truck on the interstate and saw a rich trucker's toy. But that's not what was inside it. Inside was a federal rest law that forces a human being to live on the road for weeks. Inside was a 1982 legal loophole that caps the trailer and forgets the cab. The single sentence that makes a highway apartment legal. Inside was the ghost of the flat-faced cab-over. The metal coffin drivers escaped the moment the rules let them. And inside was an 80,000-pound ceiling quietly charging that driver a tax in lost cargo on every mile they drive. 4 layers, and the marble shower was only ever the surface. So you are not looking at a vanity project. You are looking at a home, a business headquarters, a 40-year-old loophole, and a daily war between comfort and money, all bolted to the front of your country's supply chain. That weird, oversized truck is one of the most rational machines on the road. And if a $500,000 apartment hauling your groceries sounds strange, wait until you find out why the trailer behind it, the part actually carrying your food, is legally allowed to weigh more than the law says it can.